Former Ambassador William Burns spent 33 years in the United States Foreign Service before retiring from the State Department in 2014. He served as Deputy Secretary of State under President Obama and as ambassador to Russia from 2005 to 2008. He is now president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Ambassador Burns, good morning and welcome.
Morning. It's great to be here.
Why would he threaten? Why would Bashar al-Assad consider using chemical weapons, knowing what happened last time?
Because he wants to intimidate his own people. He wants basically to send them a message that nobody can protect them and that he's determined to reassert his control over all of Syria after having killed already 500,000 of his
And are the Russians serious about shooting down an American plane if it comes into certain areas that they say are protected?
There's certainly the danger of collisions like that right now. There's a lot at risk in Syria, and I wouldn't underestimate the threat of those kind of problems.
Well, then we're off and running if that happens, aren't we?
We could be. Which is why there's an awful lot at stake, and it's a very combustible situation right now.
It does seem, too, that Assad is publicly thumbing his nose at the U.S. again with his visit to this Russian air base, and I said, with the cameras rolling. What's the message he's trying to send? He's
showing off. He's a thug. He's trying to demonstrate that, you know, he can get away with the subjugation of his people, having consolidated control in the western part of his country, most of it. He's determined to try to do it in the east as well.
Would he have lost if he had not had Russian support?
Well, it's Iranian support, I think, that's really been the core for
Assad. Hezbollah has provided.
Hezbollah, through Iranian Revolutionary Guard, troops and advisors. But the Russians have played a significant role in propping them up.
Let's turn our attention to Russia now. You know, last week it was reported about Russian interference, that the Obama administration knew about it. We still don't know how to deal with the Russian interference. What do you think needs to happen here?
Well, I think Russia's hacking of our election this past year was a very serious assault on our democratic system, and it's a huge mistake to underestimate that.
Can we stop it?
I think we can deter it. I think the sanctions that the Congress is pushing through right now are the right step to take. And I think when President Trump, I assume he's going to see President Putin in 10 days in Germany at the G20 summit, his message needs to be a very firm one on this issue, because from Putin's point of view, he may wonder how seriously President Trump takes this issue right now.
But President Obama delivered that message in person to Putin. President Obama.
He did, but now you have some practical steps that are taken to impose some cost on the Russians in the sanctions package, and you need our new president, President Trump, to reinforce that message and make clear that the United States is deeply concerned about this and isn't going to allow it to happen again.
You have met with Putin. Ultimately, what does he want?
I think Putin has a very combustible combination of grievance and insecurity and ambition. You know, a lot of his worldview was shaped by the experience of Russia in the 1990s. The sense that Russia, which was then flat on its back economically, was being taken advantage of by the U.S. and the rest. And that the U.S. in that period reinforced an international order from Putin's point of view that constrained Russia, denied it what he thinks is the entitlement of a major power, which is a sphere of influence in the former Soviet space, and gave license to the U.S. and other countries to question Putin's, very tough authoritarian rule inside Russia itself. So as a result of that, Putin's conclusion is that the way to ensure Russia's major power status is chip away at American influence and also point to external threats, to say to Russians, it's the United States that's trying to keep us down, and I'm the person who can stand up to that.
Is history going to look badly at how the United States handled the dissolution of the Soviet empire?
No, I think I served in our embassy in Moscow in the early 1990s, and I think there was a serious effort to understand what Russians were going through, to try to help economically as well. So you can fault different tactics during that period, but I think the basic problem was a Russia that was going through a really difficult period, and there was a sense of humiliation that you couldn't escape.
You brought up the upcoming G20 summit, and there's reportedly disagreement in the Trump administration about whether President Trump should meet with President Putin. Should they meet? What advice do you have?
Well, I think they should meet. However difficult relationships are, you need to connect directly. I think the question is not whether they should meet, but what the message should be. And I think the message needs to be a very firm one on hacking first, on Ukraine, and our continuing concerns there, as well as Syria.
I'm also thinking about the picture of the two of them meeting. I can recall this has always come up even in the past administrations about these meetings, and Obama and Putin looking very kind of stern and angry at one another, whether there'll be sort of the chummy pat on the back that we saw with the Russian ambassador in the Oval Office.
Yeah, no, so this is not a time for chummy conversations. There are a lot of very serious differences between us and Russia, and I think it's really important for the president to make that clear so there's no misunderstanding about the depth of our concern.
North Korea still remains our toughest challenge right now, does it not?
It does. I think it's a really thorny problem. It's one of those issues that keeps my nostalgia for government service under control. The choices are not easy.
Because it's difficult and challenging.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Burns.
Thank you so much.